Hello, welcome to Paper Piecing Tips with Nestlings by Robin. Today we're going to talk about what tools to use and how to set up your workspace for success. So let's start with tools. Really pretty basic. You need your templates, and I like to cut these out just barely, like maybe 1/8 of an inch beyond the dash seam allowance line, because I know then that when I match my piece of paper up over that, it's going to cover. I love these little miniature rotary cutters. They're small. They're great for just doing the quick trimming that you need to do as you go. Your basic Elmer's glue stick. I also have here underneath a rotating mat. It's just a small little rotating mat that allows me to trim as I go right next to my sewing space. And I will be trimming with the add a quarter ruler. This particular one is the 12-inch one, which for this block you'll need because the pieces are kind of large. And what it allows you to do is, see this little lip right here? That lip allows that you won't accidentally cut off your seam allowance. Very, very important when we're doing this. So those are your basic tools. Now let's get started with setting up our workspace. Okay, organizing our workspace. I hear a lot from quilters about how they find paper piecing disorienting, or it's confusing, or it makes them feel like it's all backwards. And yes, it is a little backwards. You're sewing and layering on two different sides of your paper. But having said that, there are steps that you can take that take some of the confusion out of it. Right here, what we see is one of my paper piecing templates. And this is for sections A and section B, and you'll also see that they're numbered for sewing order. And what I like to do is have one extra copy like this that I'm only going to use for organizing all of my fabrics. All of my fabrics are going to be cut as squares or rectangles so that they'll easily fit over the space without a lot of thinking or aligning. And then I take all of those extra pieces, so these are the fabrics for section A, and I lay them right there on my template. And then over here, we have all of my fabrics for section B, and they go on my template. And so now when I get ready to work, and the way I teach is we work on one section, 2 numbers at a time. So if you have 25 blocks, you're going to do all of A1 to A2. We're going to do all 25 A1 to A2. And then you're going to trim and iron, do everything, and then you're going to do all of A2 and 3 together for all of them. This helps keep you organized. It really does, because you're not coming back. Say you get distracted and you have to go do something else and you come back and then you go, oh my gosh, well, where was I on the block? What section am I in? Where are those fabrics? This is where they are. Here are the fabrics. Here's the section I'm working on. I can't get confused. I can't get lost. And I want you to remember that you will always place your fabrics right sides together on the wrong side of the paper templates. They go right sides together on the wrong side. And you will always sew on the right side of the paper, the right side being the printed side. And as long as you can keep a couple of those little things in your head, you're good to go. And you can conquer any paper piecing project, I promise. Okay, last but not least, a couple of quick little tips about sewing with triangles. First thing I want to show you is how to use that ruler that I talked about, that I absolutely love, and this saves us every time. If you were just to come here and cut your fabric, you lose your seam allowance, and you need to have that 1/4 of an inch. So here's that little lip, and the lip fits right up against the paper, just like that. And now you have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And that allows you to place your pieces perfectly every single time. Because see, now that I have that seam allowance, I don't need to be trying to look up at the light or measure anything. I can just take the next piece, put it on here right where it's supposed to be. It lines up on my seam allowance, and I keep sewing. And on this one, you can see I've already done that. So we placed them right sides together on the wrong side, sewed on the right side, and now we're ready to add this really funny shaped triangle right here. And this is why I have you cut squares and rectangles. So we have this nice long rectangle here. And when I tell people in my directions about placing triangles, I talk about placing the majority of the fabric toward the end of the triangle. And as you can see, when this gets placed on this segment, I'm going to place it so that it comes just over my seam allowance line. So I know I've covered my seam allowance. I already have my 1/4 inch seam allowance on my piece, so I just line up the raw edges. And the majority of my fabric is way out here where that triangle tip is. And that's so that I know when I sew right up to here, and I'm going to sew right into that seam allowance a stitch or two. When I flip that, here, I'll just show you. When I flip it, it covers, and I don't have to worry about anything. It's already covered, it's ready to go. I hope these tips will help you be successful in paper piecing and that you'll learn to love it as much as I do. I do have a lot of triangles in my patterns, and that's because I like to do fun blocks that are kind of abstract, but the way you rotate them and play with them and do change the color, everybody's quilt looks completely different. And that is the joy of paper piecing. Thanks, and have a great day.